Ribbit.
I'm not a frog.
Frog, bro.
Oh.
Does it croak though?
Very
nice
Does it
frog.
It's
croak?
Kipo. Oh, my juices rise up. Juices rise up.
No, hi, Izzy.
Oh, hey, what's up? What's up, B-man?
We learning today like it's university time. University class.
We're about their
I'm
paper
excited to
and their
learn,
little
man.
pencil. Their student backpacks.
I left my backpack at home.
Oh shit! Quick, run back, grab the bus.
Oh, fuck. Forgot my homework. Is it due today?
Oh, come on.
Bro,
Is
How
it-
do you
I
forget your
forgot
homework,
yesterday.
dude? That's not very good.
I
homework doing
mean, if you
forget.
give me the page, I can fill it out real quick. I know the answers,
Did
man.
Did
I did
anybody
it, I
actually
swear.
do it? You're real. Can I see it
What
afterwards?
subject's the
I'm gonna
homework
change it a
over?
little bit so I don't look the same.
It's history.
History. You don't need that.
Oh, fuck you. I'll kill you. I'm a history major, damn it.
Screw history. You know what?
How was your
It's
first
okay, it's in the
mistake?
past.
Yeah, screw history. What happens
You know,
when we
maybe the
say
real
that?
history were the friends we made along the way.
So true. Based.
True.
I'm not sure the
Something,
British
No, don't
something,
take down the
forget
flag.
history, something,
Get
something.
here. Get over there.
Okay, boys.
Get over there.
This
No.
guy, he's taking down the
Okay,
flag.
Let's get the
traitor.
let's get the good old ball rolling. Let's see. So this is a little Arrmor event meant to be a training thing for all the new players that are new to Arrmor, because there have been a great influx of new players, and might as well tell them what to do, get you introduced with the basics, and you know how to be a good Arrmor player. Because, man, so many blueberries, so many stolen vehicles and argues on command chat. Might as well get started and try and teach some people how to use Arrmor. So, the definition of Arrmor. What is Arrmor? Arrmor is like vehicles, tanks, armored vehicles, any form of... Who's shooting? Oh, come on. Anyway,
Next
Arrmor,
person to shoot
the definition
is,
is armored vehicles, any sort of APC, IFV, MBT. Those stand for Armored Personnel Carrier, Infantry Fighting Vehicle, and obviously Main Battle Tank. Those are very powerful things that, as an infantry, unless you have an AT kit, unless you have an AT kit or something stronger than that, you probably should not be shooting at with your little Winky Dinky blaster. Just the vehicle assets for each team. And let me start off this little bit by talking about some vehicle claims and soloing. So when it comes to GC Arrmor, let's say you hit caps lock. You see all the Arrmor squads on the left hand side, like all, well, you can see a command squad, Arrmor squad, Vitalian, that guy smells. And just basically you can see in a live game what's an infantry squad, what's an air squad, and they'd be named after the vehicle. So what an Arrmor squad is a squad that is named after a vehicle, which means they have claim over it and they could use it. So if there are two ATTEs on a map and two guys decide, you know what, we're each gonna make one ATTE squad, that means that they have claim. If they made the squad first and named it ATTE, which is the correct way to do it, after the vehicle they're using, then they have claim. There should not be a third ATTE squad, because obviously you have claim issues and it will get stolen. You cannot steal it from others because, unless there's more of the asset on the map. So for example, if there's 10 lats on the map, then yeah, you can make 10 lat squads. If there's 2 lats on the map, you shouldn't make over 2 lat squads, because then it just kind of becomes a claim issue. And for GC, individually to most squad servers, which require you to have at least a duo or multiple people in one squad when like playing tanks and stuff, GC has a soloing rule in place where you can solo tanks and stuff. You don't have to worry about getting a gunner or a second man to drive for you. You can be a solo crew or a duo crew, and that's been a problem for a long time. Whether like it's more powerful for a tank to be solo crewed, and whether it should be right for people to just take Arrmor vehicles and be solo. However, at the end of the day, it is allowed to solo vehicles, though having 2 people in the tank that know what they're doing is stronger than 1 person in the tank that knows what they're doing. Because that way you can move and shoot, and you don't have to worry about wearing down your F1, F2 keys while trying to swap seats. Now, Arrmor's role in the game. Arrmor, there are 3 main aspects that I consider when thinking about like a game squad, a game of GC, 2 sides of the same coin. It's infantry, air, and armor. Infantry is typically, your general infantry squads, all of the blueberries, all the little boys in green, marching along with their little rinky-dinky blasters. Then you got the air assets with their maverick glasses, flying around, dropping supplies, doing airstrikes and all of that stuff. And then you have, obviously, the apex predators, the best ones, armor players. And these guys claim the tanks, they go around, they play armor, and they provide support for the infantry, they help set up fobs, they help guard the fobs, they could even do their own little solo missions, and they're basically Apex Predator, best boys. However, they can be taken down if improperly used. Now, later in this little training thing, I will explain the importance of decision making, because when it comes to armor, honestly, like for air vehicles and infantry, you have all sorts of stuff you can teach in a typical training, like how to do J-hook landings, how to do U-turns, how to do certain maneuvers. However, for armor, it's like once you get the simple driving down, and you get the simple gunning down, because it isn't too hard to master as long as you get that experience and you practice it. You can basically hit any shot as long as you put in some time and effort. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Sorry, I just wanted to interject for real quick. There is a function with the stage that you can raise your hand if you have a question. We will get a notification that you will have raised your hand. At what point we can address said questions, we will be able to. It should be a little hand icon on your bottom bar if you're in the calls. Fuck, what do you call it? The calls screen or whatever. I don't know what to call it. Anyways,
The Discord
I
call.
apologize for interrupting.
Yeah, no
but
problem.
if you do have questions, please raise your hand. We will be able to get to you as soon as we see it.
In a second here, I'll host a Q&A, and that's when you could start asking questions and stuff. But as I was saying, I lost my train of thought. Armor isn't too hard to mechanically play, and what differentiates a good player from a bad player is the decision making and just the thought process behind armor. Because no matter how good you are at shooting, if you make a bad choices and you just drive your tank into like a ton of enemy AT kits when you shouldn't have, then you just get annihilated, you lose your team an asset, and your team's at a disadvantage, and it's all the mental games. Yeah, I'm gonna start it off with another Q&A. If anybody has questions, I can answer them, and then we could, from there, move on to the explanation period.
I've been playing Galactic Tension for a while, but haven't played in probably about a couple months. Is the hyper shot on the sniper rifle still capable of damaging enemy tank turrets?
It is.
Thank you.
Mr. Bona Apadeath.
Hi. Yes. So I've noticed a couple of different TX players being able to fill all roles, artillery, even anti-air a couple of times, amazingly. Generally speaking, though, what would you suggest that the TX does versus the ATTE? Obviously, ATTE is heavier hitting, more fob setting up. What would you suggest for that?
This will be covered later. However, for the TX, you could play. It isn't as defensive, or you don't have to worry about like keeping yourself alive as much as you would have to with main battle tanks. Depends on the current situation, of course. But you could play a bit more scrimmagey with those. Get in on the fight, quickly dip out. It's a lot faster than all the other vehicles, excluding the N99, which is in the same class. But yes, this will be covered later. You just basically you zoom around and you go for whatever you can. Mainly infantry, but you went away from tanks.
We'll address it more in depth when the time to address the TX-130 comes.
To add on to the first question, do B2 rockets do damage to any of the armors?
It does not. They're fragmentation, so they just glance off the armor.
The difference between the B2 rocket and normal AT rockets was actually a similar difference between earlier versions of the mod itself. B2 rockets are a fragmentation rocket. The lat rocket itself, that you can find in the infantry kits, was also a fragmentation round, but it has since been switched to a heat round, and the B2 rockets, for obvious reasons, have remained fragmentation.
Cool, thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Anybody? If you do have a question, just raise your hand. It's on the bottom bar.
Hey, thank you. A little bit off topic. Vit, are you there?
I think.
Yes. Who was that?
Vit,
Sorry.
can you hear me?
Yes.
It's Kevin.
Yes.
Are you in Vit? Are you in Salty's room?
Am I in what?
Are you in
Salty's
Salty's
room?
room? In Salty's room?
I'm not. I am in the Discord, but yeah, I am.
Okay, alright, it's alright. I just recognize your name. That's all. That's all I wanted
Bit
to
off
say.
topic, but it's all good. Man.
Sorry,
Where
I
did this
just
come from?
recognized that.
I have no
No,
context.
that's don't even worry about it. Don't even
It's
worry
a Discord server.
about it. Anyway, sorry about that.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
I'm not cool enough. I see how it is.
B-Man,
B-Man, you wanna shoot?
You would, yeah,
Yeah.
if you would like to accept the invite to speak. There we are.
I know that there's different armor values underneath some of the skirt armor for the ATT, and I'm also a little bit of a gunner, but I know there's different types of munitions used, high explosive shells, and then there's some that are just like not high explosive shells.
So,
Does it
the
actually
difference,
penetrate armor?
the difference between damage values is thus with the ATTE specifically. The development version of the ATTE has different values for the outer shell and for internal components. The internal components include the wheel well, the undercarriage, and I believe there's a section at the very top that's connected to the wheel well as well. These areas are considered weaker and do take higher damage versus Sabo. The outer shell is thicker, obviously takes less damage. There is not different ammunition types for GC vehicle. There is only one type, and it is Sabo. Sabo, it is a flat. It's a flat damage value. It is concurrent with all Sabo between vehicles.
I meant the
Or, I'm
ball
sorry, not
turrets.
between
I
vehicles.
meant the
Moss,
ball
can I
turrets.
interject for a
Yes.
second?
Yes.
So actually with the Sabos, there is a damage ramp up effect. If you are at point blank range, your shots aren't going to do nearly as much damage, but they'll have a splash to it, but far range is where you'll actually be able to hurt armor.
I meant for the ball turrets. I noticed that they're green lasers.
The ball turrets and so generally the IFEs like the TX-130 N99 they have two firing modes, which is the typical laser shots and the anti-armor shots. So what the ball turrets has is like a little bit is basically the anti-infantry shot, except it has a little bit more like armor damage. So it's basically an AA gun shot that shoots out the ball turret.
Oh, okay.
So it's good against infantry, not as good against armor. However, you can, if you empty enough, heavily damage armor.
Light armor specifically, less so heavy armor.
Alright.
All right.
Mm.
Any other questions? Anybody at all? All right, that's going to be the first Q&A. We can move on to the next section. What section did you leave off, Bram?
I left off on stage 1. We're going to go to stage 2 now. So, the vehicles. What kind of glorious vehicles we have in the GC game. So, the two main classes is the main battle tank and the AAT. Oh, but yeah, here, if you pull out your binoculars and you looked a little bit to the northeast, you could see the AAT, little floaty vehicle with a giant gun on top of it. But this is ATTE. Both are counterparts of each other, however, do have vastly different
Over here,
aspects.
guys. Follow Ram. He's one in yellow.
Yellow boy, doing yellow things in yellow trees. So the ATTE, it is a main battle tank, and it has one main giant Sabo cannon on top of it. So it has 6 seats that can be operated by crewmen. The first seat is the driver, and the driver obviously operates the vehicle, steers where it's going, can stop it, all that stuff. The gunner, the first gunner is the top gunner. He operates the main giant Sabo cannon, and also has a little anti-infantry laser on it. It's basically the typical gunner you see on an ATTE. And then the extra 4 seats, now those are the ball turrets. They are little, as I said earlier, kind of AA gun type things, but however, if they're all crewed properly and all emptying into one vehicle, it could shut it remarkably fast. The ATTE, when it comes to movement and armor, it is heavily armored, can take a lot of damage and shots. However, the main drawbacks is this huge hitbox, as you can see, giant figure, and also the heavy arm. No, the slowness. I am losing my speaking ability. It is quite slow, can't drive as fast as any of the other armor vehicles. However, it is contrasted by its heavy armor plating. Meanwhile, if we move over to its counterpart, the AAT, let's go this way. Just sprint over, do a little good old hike, get the cardio in.
Come on, come on. Yep.
I'm sorry.
This is the AAT.
ATTE looks really cool.
No.
Like the ATTE, it does have the main giant cannon on top. However, it only has 2 seats. 1 seat for the driver and 1 seat for the Sabo gunner and main cannon. These side guns aren't usable at the moment, however, that may change later. And so what the AAT is it's basically a main battle tank. It has a remarkable speed. It could drive around quite quickly and it's very maneuverable in comparison to the ATTE with a small frame. However, when it comes to overall health, armor, and all of that heavy capabilities, it's not as good at that. It's very light, can get around 3 shot by the ATTE, meanwhile the ATTE can take 5 shots from this AAT. So that covers the main battle tank class. There are some exceptionalities, like the Tuscans, what are they? The Tuscans? I think that's it. But we're not going to be covering those since those are more out of the ordinary. Now, the other vehicle class, besides the main battle tank, is the IFV. And that is what we call the TX-130 and the N99. Those are IFVs, stick under those class. So the TX-130, as I'm sure you all have seen, is a little kind of speeder type tank. Very agile and mobile, can move around. It has 1 driver's seat and 3 gunner's seats, and then afterwards it can transport infantry on the sides of it. For example, if y'all want to quickly hop inside, just hold F on it to get in, and you see in the bottom right you can see what seat you're in. For example, it shows me in the driver's seat. It shows Izzy in the gunner's seat, which is seat 2. First 4 seats, driver and gunners. And so seat 2 and 3, no, seat 2 is the top gun, which is the little gun you can see on top. The boy moving around on the top turret. Seat 3 and 4 are the side turrets. Now those are the those are the more heavy hitting cannons. Not only do they have the anti-infantry rounds, but if you hit 2, you can also load in the armor piercing rounds, which is good against tanks. And all the other seats, like seat 5 above, those are all passenger seats. So it's pretty good for transporting units into combat and then also escorting them by providing armor support. Now its counterpart, the N99, quite similar, maneuverable, light armor.
Come on.
And however, it does not have the top turret. So it only has 2 guns, 2 on each side. If we want to go ahead and hop in it again. After seat 4 and above, those are all passenger seats. Seat 1 is the driver's seat, seat 2 is the gunner's. Seat 2 and 3 are the gunners, I cannot speak.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's passengers. The gunners do have the same armor-piercing rounds that the TX has. The only main difference between these two is that, mainly the shape of them. However, the TX does have that top gunner, so... Also, the N99... What was I gonna say? I lost my... So, okay, you've seen 2 N99s. There's the Logi version, and then there's also the APC version. As you can see, this version, it has guns on it. However... I'm gonna get the Logi spawned in 1 second here. Just give it a moment. So this is the Logi version. They basically look the exact same, however you do have to keep an eye out for the guns on the sides. If it has guns on the sides, it will cause you a lot of pain. If it doesn't, then it's just a typical old Logi. A question that is frequently asked is, does the APC and the Logi share the same health value or armor value? No, they do not. The Logi is considerably weaker, despite it looking almost exactly the same.
Pog.
Alright, guys, we will be moving on to the next section if there are no questions. If you do have questions, there are new arrivals. If you have questions thus far, please hit the little hand icon in the bottom of the call. We will get to you as you come in. Any questions at all?
Regarding that, if you do have a question while we're going through and talking about something, we're going to address that at the end of the little stages we have set up, so that we don't like just pause every other second to answer a question.
Hello.
Alright.
How are you
Raise
doing
hand
here?
is disabled.
All good, man.
Ah, fair.
I do not see any
Just to see
requests
what
to speak, so guys, go ahead and come back over here to the podium. I will be addressing stage 3.
Man on the tower.
We can't request to talk.
You can't
Yeah,
request.
it's
Oh wait,
disabled.
hold on.
Oh,
hold on,
right,
hold on,
boys.
hold on, hold on.
Step 3, how to play the vehicles. This is going to be a
Mass.
What? Yes.
I made a mistake. I made a grave mistake. There we go.
What
Now
mistake?
you can request. Now you can request. Sorry.
Oh, did you turn it off? Okay. Alright, we're gonna be doing questions before that. Adrahado, please.
1 second.
Yeah.
Push to talk. I'll fix it.
Adrahado. Are you...
He's
do
having
you have a
push to talk issues. Just give him a moment.
Okay. Did he say that in-game?
There, sorry, that's it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, there it is.
Keybind was buggered. Corsair mucked up. No, it's just a question. I noticed for the Persuader tank, you've actually got it at this stage so that the gun turrets, they end up actually moving on the 3D model outside it. I noticed that for the TX-130 they didn't. Is there a plan at some stage to add that in, or is that sort of a low priority thing?
There's a
Just
plan,
interesting.
and it will.
Ah, interesting.
Currently for the dev layer, they are movable, but the dev layer we aren't covering because that's more experimental. The devs are just messing around in that, seeing like what people think, just very experimental stuff. But they do move in that layer.
Ah, fair. Thank you very much. Because I've had it a few times where I've thought it hasn't been looking at me and it has been, and it's just
It just
been
flicks
interesting.
over, like looking to
Yeah.
the left, hits you in the right.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Next is gonna be Devin Romano.
A question comparing the TX-130 to the Persuader. The TX-130 only has one gun that can use the anti-armor, correct?
No, it has 2 side guns. See, 3 and 4 both are. You see how like there's 2 guns on the TX-130? Both of those are individual gunners. The top gun is the only like.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought they were commanded by the same seat.
Nope. They both
In
individual.
in the dev version of the vehicle, which is subject to change, that both side guns are controlled by the same gunner.
What is whip?
That is only the development version.
Okay.
The vanilla version has 2 seats capable of anti-armor engagement, and the top seat is anti-infantry only.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And that
All right,
Kieran, you want to?
Kieran?
Hope I'm saying your
Going
name
off
right.
the back of Devin's question, so in the future the TX's guns will be twin linked instead of
We
In
don't
the
know at this
future,
time.
It is a possibility.
We don't know at
it
this
is
time.
a development version, so everything on the vehicle is subject to change.
Sweet. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Alright, sorry. My Discord crashed when you were going through the explanation, so can you go over what the difference between the different seats in the TX are again?
Hey, sorry to interject, Astro. Mass Vit wants to talk to you on the game.
Yeah, okay.
Astro, ask again. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my Discord crashed when you guys were explaining the TX. Can you go over what all the seats are again?
Yeah, sorry about that. There's 4 original seats, 1 driver's seat, 2 gunner seats, and a 3rd gunner seat. That's the top seat. Seat 2 is the top gunner seat. Seat 1 is the driver's seat. 3 and 4 side guns, and everything else is just passenger.
Alright, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next stage in 1 moment here. Give me a minute.
There's actually one more question before we move to stage 3.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
Bonus?
Yes, I had a question about how to get into the server because I'm not
Oh, I got you.
So,
not able
okay,
to get
so
in.
the
I joined
server
a
that
little
we're
late.
on right now Yeah, the server that we're on right now is on the custom browser. It is our
Mhm.
custom browser server. It is not the main browser. So you're gonna go to custom browser, deselect your favorites, because you cannot favorite custom browser servers, sadly, and then just search GC. Well, you'll find us there. It's on.
There are a ton of other like Galactic Contention servers. However, it does have like the little GC in brackets next to it, and that's how you tell which one it is.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Any other questions? No matter how small, insignificant, or otherwise you may feel it is.
Oh, is he? Shoot.
All right.
Yeah, I just have a question. Like, I think I just like missed this point. The weak. So they do have like weak points. Yeah. I swear I'm not insane.
We will. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Some of the vehicles do have weak points, though generally not. I will cover the weak points in a moment here. Well,
Okay. Cool.
later on.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions at all?
I just want to clarify a rumor I've heard from other people, and I've been spreading to other people as well. But are all the vehicles based off the is it this Bradley? The Bradley IFV chassis treads?
I don't think so.
As far as I'm aware, the Bradley was used in initial development, but Furt has more to say on this than me.
So the current ATT, the one you see over there, yeah, this thing's technically a Bradley in terms of collision.
So that's why it kind of like spins on a dime, and then when your feet are kind of clipping, they're not really like there, and then you get stuck in some weird positions and you can't get out, but you're like hovering midair. It's just because the treads are like
Pretty much, yeah.
We talking Secret Bradley? All of the non-dev layer ground vehicles are a Bradley. Okay. With the hidden Bradley with a Star Wars mesh stuck on top of it. They do have like different driving properties. That's how the ATTE goes slow and the other vehicles go faster, but the actual wheel positions are all in the spots. That's why you're able to clip an ATTE through between two trees that are pretty close together on maps like Cavado. The dev vehicles all have custom wheel setups, and that's why it's kind of harder to get them around sometimes.
That was funny because earlier today I found a tank and I couldn't find out how to get it out because it was like midair. I think it was Aaron that was like witnessed it, and I told him to take a video of it and me trying to fix it.
Sometimes there is difficulties with terrain, terrain that is not properly rendered or that is not properly placed. I know Tatooine has some roads that are like that. They aren't properly meshed with the terrain, so they can get stuck like that. The current vanilla ATTE, it does have some issues sometimes getting stuck. Cases like that, it's best to try and do whatever you can to get it unstuck, but if you cannot, the only real resort is to just destroy it and then wait for the respawn, as sucky as that may be.
That is pretty sucky. The UT-AT has the same mesh though, right, as the Bradley?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Current limitations, we can only do so much with the original vanilla vehicles. That is why they have been revamped and redone in the development versions, and while the development versions are completely subject to change, there are some constants that we would like to see brought into future versions.
I've had fresh blueberries complain to me that their vehicles are stuck, and I try and help them out. That's kind of why I'm like trying to verify that. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Sometimes it's unavoidable. They'll go into unreachable places, but for all intents and purposes, there is a tiny Bradley that is underneath the ATTE, and you have to focus specifically on that if you're trying to free it.
Alright, thank you.
Absolutely.
Hey, as an FYI, we're gonna wrap up after these next 3 questions, and we'll host more later.
All right. Next is going to be Astro.
All right. So for the TX, I've noticed if I try to switch into the other guns that aren't the gun on top, sometimes I just don't have a HUD. Is this just like a common bug, or
It's a common
or other
bug.
ways you can mitigate that?
It's if you swap from any gunner seat to another gunner seat, you can fix it by swapping to like a passenger seat and then swapping.
Or getting out of the vehicle.
Alright, thank you.
So on the vanilla TX130, the best fix that anyone has ever found for it, switching from seats 3 or 4 to seats 5, 6, or up, and that's a very
swapping back. Okay, Bono.
Just a quick question. So whenever the vehicles do get stuck, obviously there's some a-holes that like to just get the vehicle stuck just to mess with everyone. Whenever you destroy it, how do people get the timers that notify them, oh hey, I've got 5 minutes for the ATTE to respond?
So
this is actually something.
Yeah, if you look in game, you hit your caps lock. In the top right side, there is going to be a tank marker with a question mark on it. Hover over that. It will show you every available vehicle for this map, and it will show you timers if they are if they have dedicated spawners to the map. Because this map is a Glops layer, there are no vehicle spawners that we can show you as an example. But if there were, for example, the LAT, if there was a dedicated spawner for it on this map, you would see the normal, like 2 out of 2 have spawned, 1 goes down, you would see the 6-minute, I think it is, timer.
1 out of 2, and then you see a little like timer counting down next to it, where the ready.
It's always under the caps lock menu.
Sweet, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Like shoot.
And last question's gonna be Nigerian.
It sounds stupid, but can you, just like base squad, can you like launch a hat into the mass driver on top of an ATT and disable it? Like,
Not in the present version. The only present vehicle that can be turreted is the AAT, but that is due to change in future versions. We're not sure when it's going to come, but that is a feature that a feature that we are striving to include.
Malp, you wanna elaborate upon this?
I forgot.
I tried it earlier in a AAT shooting at the turret. It didn't work and it got smashed. But thank you.
Absolutely. All right, we will be moving on.
message.
We will hold another Q&A after this. After the next section? Any future questions? Yeah. Okay. I will proceed to read through and start to explain how to play the vehicle. There are different attitudes, specifically, that you guys will find to be extremely useful for each of these vehicles. Different mindsets to have. There will be a different mindset between every MBT, between the IFVs, between Logis, even though we won't be covering those right now. A good thing to note, especially for you guys, is no matter what we explain right now, you need to find whatever works for you, what playstyle works for you. Everything that we say is based upon experience, so I would heed it, but you individually, as you play Arrmor, no matter if you've already played it in base squad, if you've already played it in GC, you'll find something that you have trust in. So, what I'm saying is, take what we say with a grain of salt. It won't work for everyone. We find that it works for us. You will find everything individually that works for you. But with that said, I'm going to begin a basic explanation. In my own opinion, I will gladly invite the others here to talk about it as well. The best way to play each individual vehicle. I'm going to begin with the ATTE, the most obvious option. The ATTE, characteristically, is slow. In every depiction that we've seen, it is not the fastest vehicle. We have tinkered with it every now and then to boost the speed somewhat, just to make it a more playable tank, but it is by no means fast. It gets up to, I think, what, 40 kilometers an hour?
Yeah, 40.
Yeah. and that is dwarfed by some other vehicles. The TX-130 and the N99 infantry fighting vehicle, those specifically can go much faster than the ATTE as they are meant to, because they are light tanks. But the ATTE, it's slow, it's lumbering, it has a lot of health. It's best to play it slowly. The ATTE is very, very big. It has a very large profile. It is very difficult to hide. Terrain makes a very, very keen impression on how you play the ATTE. If you were playing, for example, on Tatooine, hold on, Ram, go ahead.
So when he's like talking about how slow it is and stuff and how heavy it is, an example of an attitude that we've been talking about that you might want to take a stance you would like to use is a more defensive oriented stance with this slow play style. You might, like, for example, with how the ATT is, you don't want to be going on the offense, just blitzkrieging too much. You might want to play it slow, take your time. Just basically be kind of like a stationary tower that can also move.
It's a definitely a perfect way to look at it. There have been several times that I have taken on multiple armor pieces as well as aircraft from the droid team and won. You are, especially in vanilla GC, capable of dueling not one tank, but two of the enemy's teams if you're properly positioned and you've properly taken the time to scout things out. Obviously, poor information, poor teamwork, those can lead to an early downfall and disappointing results. But it is per situation that those deeply affect your abilities. Specifically for the ATTE, though, I want to pare down. I'm speaking too broadly. The attitude for the ATTE, you have to play extremely safely. Take it slow. Make sure you've explored all of your surroundings. Tatooine, specifically, is an extremely open map. You need to watch your surroundings as best you can. Tatooine, I found, is actually a very good map to have a gunner and a driver, because the gunner can watch simultaneously while the driver attempts to get someone, or I'm sorry, get the tank to its proper destination. Proper destinations are hold down positions. Hold down is armor terminology. Basic explanation is only your gun is visible to the enemy. It makes you harder to receive hits, but you can still see the enemy and still dish out pain. These hold down positions, they can be found in a variety of locations on a variety of maps. You're confusing me, Ram. I see it. Yes, thank you. God damn it. I apologize. You can find these locations in various spots around map. I will actually be speaking on this somewhat in later parts of our lecture, because we will be moving on to more fun and more entertaining things than just talking about the subject. The ATTE, like I said, it needs to be slow. It needs to be as slow as it is maneuverable. And while it's not fast, it can still be a very, very lethal threat if you use it properly. You're going to find yourself pitted against infantry more than anything else, because the ATTE cannot get itself into positions of cover if by themselves. Excuse me. Thank you, Rem. While that's a very, very broad explanation, I believe we'll be able to show you better than we can explain it later on. But with that, I'm going to move off of the ATTE and I'm going to move to the counterpart, the AAT. Its counterpart, the AAT, is not a pure equal, especially in vanilla GC. Despite it not being a pure equal, it is by no means a lesser vehicle. The AAT has its own charms and its own strength. The AAT specifically is far, far easier to conceal, and it's far better at movement. In the time it takes the ATTE to travel a, say, 100-meter stretch, you can have already traveled that stretch and gone further on with the AAT. Use the AAT's maneuverability to its advantage. Do not stay stationary for too long, please. That is the ATTE. The ATTE should not be moving too often, but it does need to move. The AAT's strength is not only in movement, but in number. I should see the AAT tag teaming ATTEs. Tag teaming not only one, but they can even tag team two if they're smart enough about it.
I have a temptation because Aaron's.
Please
right
work
there.
with your other armor if you
I
are
have
the
to hide
AAT.
the flag.
That is something I will heavily stress.
I don't want to interrupt.
So those are the Oh, you still going on about the AATs?
No. Please go ahead.
Okay, gotcha. I'm gonna go ahead with the IFEs, the TX-130 and the N99 that we mentioned earlier. So there was some questions earlier. I think it was I'm sorry, I'm terrible at remembering names. There were some questions earlier. Hey, how does the TX-130 and N99? Do we play these a bit faster as we would with the ATT? Because I know like the big giant cannon's a bit differently, and should be treated differently. But yeah, in regards to those, since they have a fast speed, light armor, they respawn relatively quickly, and it could be, if gunned, can be absolutely devastating mobile machines. You should, when you're playing the IFEs, you should like kind of just think in the back of your head, I'm playing in a motorcycle with guns on. Okay, that's a terrible comparison. You are in a fast and mobile armored vehicle. You can be lax in most engagements, as most of the time you will overpower enemy vehicles that are attacking you. For example, if you're getting attacked by an aircraft, attacked by infantry, attacked by maybe even another IFV or something lighter, you could be a bit more lax, a bit more. You should be cautious, but you should be going for just fast plays. Just overall, you are the top dog until when it comes to main battle tanks. Main battle tanks will 9 times out of 10 overpower you unless you have some sort of advantage going in your favor. For example, if I had the choice to rush at an AAT with a fully crewed TX-130, I would decide not to because he will probably win that fight unless I have the drop on him. If I can coordinate with other armor assets, type you are echoing, god damn it. If I could coordinate with other armor assets or with like infantry to try and distract him and then get the drop on him, I think that would be much better than just going for head-on-head fight. In other cases, most of the time, the TX is like basically second to top Apex Predator. You could go at him, go crazy, speed around. It's a lot less, a lot of people, well, I for one like TX squatting every now and then because it feels a lot more freeing than playing as a main battle tank. Because there's always that fear that you're gonna lose the tank and you're gonna have a 20-minute cooldown timer. For the TX and the N99, you still have to worry about losing your team tickets. However, you can be a bit more risky when it comes to plays. I mentioned decision making earlier, and I'm gonna mention it again. How it differentiates whether you're a good or bad armor player. So when it comes to, as I said with decision making, it really is. I can't explain all of it just in Discord call. It's really a gameplay thing that not only is gained by just kind of thinking a little bit and planning out like where you're going, but also just by it's something you gain with experience. It's game sense. The more you play GC, over time you will develop a greater awareness for your vehicle, the surroundings, what kind of like different things that might impact like how you play, how you should think. Examples include objectives, like is the objective close to you? Should you go support your infantry on it? Is the objective far and you should just get the hell out of there? Like no point in fighting for a lost flag. Your location on the map, where like basically once again this relates to objectives, friendly infantry, enemy armor. This is okay, I hate to say, but this is a very broad covering of decision making, but it's just stuff you should be aware of. Potential cover of where you are on the map, where the enemy could be, callouts, and your decision making is greatly helped by your team because the more callouts you get, more info you know, the easier it is to make a call. For example, like there could be 10 enemy tanks up ahead. There could be like only 1 enemy tank. There might not even be any tanks, just some infantry that you can mow down. And when you're kind of going into that unknown variable, you might want to ask command chat, "Hey guys, Do you guys know if there's like enemy vehicles up ahead? What's the status on them? Do you need my help? Are we making a big push? And if you get a good command chat, more times than not, you will get a response like, hey, there's a tank up ahead. You might want to watch out for that. Oh, we saw a tank hanging out south, but we don't know the status on them. So, more information you get, the better it is, and the easier your decision making is. This decision making applies to all tanks, armor vehicles, your entire base, actually infantry and air as well. But armor most of all, because armor is less mechanical in terms of skill and more of just decision making and calls to make. I think that any questions regarding that stuff? Let me make sure that I didn't disable the Q&A. Yeah, okay, I have it allowed. So it doesn't look like we have any at this moment, so we can move on to stage 4, which is a bit more engaging than the good old lecture that we've been giving. Give me one moment to figure out how we're gonna get down there.